At dawn, I stood on what used to be my dock boots on charred planks. My father's sailboat, sitting in the water like a black skeleton, the air tasting like gasoline and ash. And I said out loud to no one. They thought this would shut me up. 3 months later, I froze. Their bank accounts turned their bylaws into a blade, and watched the HOA president look at me like I had reached into her chest and flipped a switch. What would you do in my shoes? Sell and run lawyer up and bleed, or go nuclear? My name is Ethan Cole. Retired Coast Guard search and rescue out of the Carolina coast, the type who still counts exits in restaurants and sleeps light when weather rolls in. And 2 years back, I bought a little A-frame on Lake Everly in a place called Maple Ridge Lakeside. 412 homes dues, $325 a month, a glossy brochure version of peace that turns out to be a committee with a clipboard. You know what I mean. The anchor of that life was Second Wind, a 1988 Morgan Out Island. My dad never got to finish restoring before cancer, so I did it myself. Slow and honest, one sanding pass at a time. The deck smelled like varnish and coffee, and those last good afternoons with him. Our HOA president, Karen Whitfield. Blonde bob that never moves white Lexus with the vanity plate. LVN Lake smiles with her mouth, not her eyes. And when you see that smile, you're already holding a fine. Yeah, that happened. Her sister Lila is the treasurer. Hank, the VP, sells HVACs and golf shirts. The board is a rubber stamp, and the stamp says approved in beige. The first shot came by certified mail. My dock, she said, encroached 2 feet into an HOA navigational easement. Fix it in 30 days, or pay a $5,000 fine. So I hired a licensed surveyor for $800. He stamped that my dock was entirely on my deeded line. The HOA map was from a different century, and the cove lines had been updated, and I brought every page to a board meeting that smelled like Lysol and burnt coffee. Fluorescent buzzing. Karen tapped one gavel beat and said, "The board will review." Then didn't. What followed was textbook pressure. Tow trucks called on my pickup. Though I was legal anonymous county complaints about unpermitted this and that. A cheery email blast about unsightly vessels and escalating fines that didn't say my name because it didn't have to. And I told myself to stay in the pocket Coast Guard style, find the leak before you bail. Then, one Sunday, the boat was spray painted in neon orange. Welfare sailor on one side. Go home on the other, still tacky. Deputy Miles Turner took photos, closed his notebook, and said in that tired voice, "Good cops have. Off the record, kids don't have marina gate codes. Watch your 6 and get cameras." I mounted 2 4K units on the dock that afternoon, made coffee strong enough to vote, bought a $12 domain called mapleridgeaccountability.com, and posted the surveyor's stamp with plain English, posted a photo of Karen's son's lifted Jeep parked overnight beside the rule it broke. No insults, just receipts, and filed public records requests because sunshine works if you're stubborn. 2 weeks later, the county dropped a packet of contracts and invoices, and there it was, Evergreen Property Services. LLC, lots of money for landscaping consulting. No website. A P.O. box registered by a name that used to belong to Karen before she married. And I posted the invoices with a simple question. Who is Evergreen, and what do they do for $124,600? The law firm Klein and Rutherford sent a cease and desist. Or defamation, and I posted that too with a line lawyers hate. I look forward to discovery. 3 weeks later at 2:38 a.m., I woke to a crack, like God. Broke a stick. The bedroom went orange, and when I ran outside, the heat hit my face like I opened an oven door from hell. Second wind was a torch. Fiberglass, popping mast, groaning until it snapped and hissed into the lake. Neighbors shouting sirens. Coming fast and still too slow. And by sunrise, the fire marshal said, "Gasoline. Stern, origin, deliberate." And my new cameras showed two hooded figures sprinting to a dark sedan with its lights off. The HOA called it an accident on Facebook at 7:12 a.m. Insurance called it a mysterious fire and lowballed me to depreciated value, and I sat on the steps with a blanket. Somebody wrapped around my shoulders and felt the grief get cold, not hot, the kind that makes you precise. I found my dad's old Coast Guard manual in the garage and read his note on the inside cover. Calm seas never made a skilled sailor. Then called an old shipmate, Owen Hartley, who now counts beans for a living and does it with surgical hands. I sent him everything he sent back, a spreadsheet and a low whistle. Evergreen's deposits bounce into Karen's personal account within 48 hours. Whitfield Realty invoices at $340 an hour, where local market is 90 to 120 retroactive board stipends at $800 a month. Without the homeowner vote, the bylaws demand 3 years of underreported HOA income on tax filings. Total exposure, around $193,000 and change. You know what I mean. I asked if we could freeze their money. He said, banks like the smell of fraud, about as much as they like ammonia. So file with the State Attorney General's HOA fraud unit. Send IRS Form 3949A and attach his analysis to a certified letter to the HOA's bank asking for a fraud review. I checked boxes, licked envelopes, sent the packet. And 3 days later, Rivergate Bank froze operating and reserve accounts pending investigation. And the sound Karen made in the aftermath wasn't a word. It was a pitch. Contractors couldn't get paid. The law firm couldn't bill toner. Didn't get ordered, the machine stopped. She posted a screenshot at 6 a.m. of an email that was allegedly from me. "You'll regret crossing me. I'm capable of things you can't imagine. Except the font was wrong. The header was wrong. My address was missing a hyphen, and people scrolling before coffee. Don't check headers." So I became the villain in a story she was writing in real time. Fake Google listings popped up with 1-star reviews. A GoFundMe for my boat. Got frozen for fraud after it was reported. Someone cut all 4 tires in my driveway, and I kept breathing, counting, documenting. Then the weak link showed up on my porch. Lila with dark circles and a manila folder asking for leniency and setting a stack of printed emails on my table like a confession, including one line that made my hands go still. Code Evergreen payments as landscaping Mayeski. Do not itemize. And don't worry about the boat situation, I'm handling it. Plus audio from board meetings she'd recorded, where Karen laughed about solving my dock problem to boost Cove property values. Deputy Miles handed the mess to the State Bureau of Investigation. They pulled cell records and camera hits brought in. Karen's son Trevor swabbed his trunk, found gasoline residue, and a cheap flare cap with fiberglass dust. And the texts read like a movie where the bad guy forgets the theater is full of microphones. Need you to handle the boat situation. Make it look accidental. Scare him good. While SBI built the arson case, we built Operation Clean Sweep. Evelyn, the retired paralegal, drafted personal fiduciary demand letters to each board member. Owen delivered the financial packet to the AG we rented the community center and invited press to a town hall that wasn't an HOA meeting because we wanted light, not procedure, and the bank kept the accounts on ice. Karen came to my porch in yoga pants and a stained t-shirt with no makeup and said, please, she would resign. She would leave. Just stop, and I said, you should have thought of that before you lit a match. Then closed the door. And I didn't feel good. I felt steady. 2 weeks later, the haul was over. Capacity cameras in the back, bloggers up front, neighbors standing along the walls, holding their breath. And I put Second Wind on a big screen, First Alive and sunlit with my dad on the bow. Then the morning after smoke, lifting into a gray sky. And I said the fire marshal ruled arson. My cameras caught 2 figures. It's a cooperating suspect, but this is bigger than my boat. This is our money, and what power does. When nobody looks. The slides were simple. Money flow from HOA to Evergreen to Karen in under 48 hours. Consulting at $340 an hour when the neighborhood rate is 90 to 1 overbilling Fortel. Illegal board stipends of $100 a month with no vote. Underreported taxes for 3 years. And the Assistant Attorney General Nora Shields stood and said charges were coming next week, restitution and asset seizure would follow. Somebody asked about the fire. She said the arrested individual was cooperating, and messages indicated direction by another party more to come, and the room turned as one body to the aisle, where Karen stood half up saying, "Witch hunt," saying I threatened her with emails, and I said the email she posted came from a server in Miami, and used a font I haven't touched in 20 years. If she wants to talk more, she can do it under oath. We took a vote of no confidence. The bylaws say 51% of homeowners present, and we blew past. That dissolved the board, named interim leadership authorized civil action. And when we spilled out to the parking lot under sodium lights, a cruiser rolled in, and a deputy said, "Mrs. Whitfield," and read words everyone knows from television. But they sound different when the air is this cold. Then the small metallic click that ends Act 3. I didn't cheer. I didn't pump a fist. I felt like someone found a wallet I'd lost, and most of the cash was still there. But my ID was gone, and I would have to live with that. Here's the twist you can chew on. Freezing those accounts forced a reckoning, sure, but it also meant landscapers didn't get paid for a month, and a roof leak waited while lawyers circled. So was I right to pull that lever, or was there another way that wouldn't bruise as many people? Do HOAs keep neighborhoods clean, or do they turn into tiny kingdoms where beige matters more than being decent? You tell me. Drop your take in the comments, right wrong somewhere in the messy middle, and tell me where you're watching from. If you're in a fight like this, save everything. Ask for records. Learn your bylaws. Do not let a clipboard scare you into silence. And if you want more real stories, where regular folks push back when power gets lazy or cruel, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. I'm Ethan, thanks for your time, and if you're in rough water tonight, remember what the old man wrote. Calm seas never made a skilled sailor.